Have you ever taken a moment to just breathe? To stop whatever it is you're doing, whether it's texting friends, whether it's playing video games, catching up on your homework? Have you ever just stopped what you're doing, taken a step outside, and soaked in the season around you? Maybe taking a look at the trees, or maybe taking a look down at the ground. Maybe you're able to see the nature and wildlife around you or hear some of it. About 3 years ago, I had the amazing privilege to be able to travel around the world. I went to Europe and I went to Asia. And so growing up here in Canada, and specifically in Ottawa, I was very struck with the amount of diversity we had here. We have diversity with people, cultures, ethnicities, and one of my favorites would be the diversity with different amounts of food. So you can go ahead and have Indian food on Monday, and you can have Greek food on Wednesday, and wrap up your week with having some Italian food. But the thing is with diversity is when I went overseas, and I had this experience to talk to different people from around the world, everyone was talking about specific things that make their culture and their country unique. And then we were also talking about what we appreciate about other people's cultures and about the cities and the home places where they grew up. Now, being someone who grew up in Ottawa, something that I'd never really considered as being something unique from my home place was that people talked about the seasons that we experience. So growing up in Ottawa, we have super warm, hot summers where you can enjoy the beach and catching some rays of sun. Then you also have the extreme opposite of winters, where you have freezing cold, snow, snowmen, drinking hot chocolate. And then you have the spring, which is kind of one of those transition seasons. So you can experience having new life, hearing birds chirping and animals coming out of hibernation. Then you've also got the fall, another transition season, where you can experience the beautiful colors. To give you a little bit of an idea of what I'm talking about, I want to show you a short video clip. What I really appreciate about this video is it shows you just in under a minute exactly what it is that we go through with the seasons in Canada, experiencing all those different changes in nature and in wildlife. So similar to how in Canada, and specifically in Ottawa, we see this vast array of different seasons. Each individual person experiences different seasons in their lives. We go through changes and we're never stuck in one season forever. There's ups and downs and highs and lows. Ecclesiastes 3 specifically talks about this, and it lists a whole pile of different seasons that we go through in our lives. And it says there's actually a time and a place for every season that we go through. And if you notice, yes, we go through different seasons, but as human beings, we're a little bit unique, where we have a whole bunch of different emotions that we also go through. So, for example, in one day, you may experience an extreme joy in the morning. You might go through some loneliness in the afternoon and then have fear in the evening. There's also maybe anger and excitement. We all experience different emotions and different seasons, but nobody experiences the same thing in the same order. Every single person has a unique story and unique seasons that we go through, which means that you can't go through life expecting what the next day will look like exactly. We never know exactly what the next season will be that we're about to go through. It's a completely unknown story that we're walking through. We can't predict what comes next, and we can't predict how we're going to react to things either. So sometimes life can feel a little bit like an emotional roller coaster. You might have really good days and really good seasons, and then great emotions that are tied to that. So for example, something that I really appreciate is the Christmas season.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
I'm a little bit obsessed with it, and I love certain things that are around this season. Things such as appreciating the first snowfall, maybe just walking down the street and seeing the Christmas lights. I also love the build up to Christmas Eve service and being able to celebrate the birth of Jesus. So with this great season, I then experienced joy. So there's kind of those great emotions and feelings that come from going through a good season. But on the other hand, there's also seasons of loss and difficulty that we go through. And when we go through hard seasons, we often experience emotions such as sadness, maybe loneliness, or even sometimes anger. And that's okay, because every single season has a purpose and has a reason in our lives. Now, what's really amazing is that Jesus goes on to talk about this with his disciples. Specifically in John chapter 16, verse 33, Jesus is talking to his disciples about going through a season where they're not going to have Jesus there with them. Now, if you think about the disciples, Jesus was their leader. He was the person who they were relying on, who they were following every single day. And for him to then not be there, or to be warning them that he was not going to be there for a season, that would have been maybe something that made them nervous or anxious. But he leaves them with this amazing verse. In verse 33, it says, "I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." Now, Jesus knew that the disciples were going to go through hard times. And not just the disciples, he knew that we would go through hard seasons. He knows that life isn't perfect because we live in a world that is fallen and broken. So we will go through seasons of difficulty in our lives. But he leaves this amazing phrase where he says, "But take heart." And it leads into that powerful statement, "I have overcome the world." Now, that's a really bold statement for someone to be able to claim. But if you look at the life of Jesus, and if you look through the life that he lived, he walked a perfect life on earth. He lived here amongst humans, and he walked among the people. And at the end of his ministry, after he taught and after he did healings and miracles, he then gave up his life and sacrificed himself on the cross. So if that was the end of the story, it wouldn't really be very hopeful. And that wouldn't really be something that you want to put your hope in. But the amazing part of the story is that he did overcome, and he overcame the biggest thing in life. He overcame death itself by rising again on the third day. So when our lives are going up and down, and we have seasons that are all over the place, and things are so unpredictable, and we don't know how we can handle different things that life throws our way, we know that even though we go through roller coasters, Jesus is bigger, and he can overcome. If he can overcome death itself, then he can overcome the difficulties that we are facing, the difficulties that you are facing. So maybe some of those things are struggles with anxiety. Maybe you struggle with depression or with physical illness. Maybe you've lost a family member or a friend of yours has moved away. Whatever the challenging season that you have experienced, or maybe that you're going through right now, remember that Jesus has overcome. He's bigger than the different difficulties that you will face in your life. On top of that, in Hebrews 13, it even goes on to say that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So regardless of the ups and downs we face, Jesus is consistent. It's this grounding and this hope that we can have that even though we go through wild and crazy times and unpredictability, Jesus doesn't change. He's always by our side, and he's always someone that we can continually rely on. So I want to leave you with two different things, an encouragement and a challenge. So my encouragement for you is, whatever the season of difficulty you face, know that Jesus has overcome. Remember that he is bigger than the trials and the tribulations that we come across. And the challenge is that maybe you need to be reminded of this, more so than just hearing a talk, but also on your own daily life. So I want to challenge you to open up a Bible. Maybe if you don't have one, try to get a Bible app on your phone and read through Ecclesiastes chapter 3. In Ecclesiastes chapter 3, it's what I mentioned before, where it talks about all the different seasons. Maybe you can look through there and pick one season that specifically relates to your life. What's something that you can kind of look at and think, I can relate to this at this moment? Then maybe highlight it, circle it, underline it, and see how God has been working already in this season in your life. How can you see that God has already started to overcome whatever the difficulty and the season you're going through? So let me just close with a blessing for you. God, I pray that no matter what the season is, whether challenging or joyful, whether exciting or difficult, that these youth would be able to rest assured knowing that you are the same yesterday, today, and forever, and that you have overcome their biggest difficulties. Amen.